What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for another album review for you guys. This time I'm talking about the other big death metal album that came out during the weekend of April 22nd, 2022, and that is the third studio album from New Jersey death metalers Sentient Horror and their album Rites of Gore. So yes, brief little history about Sentient Horror for those newbies here. Sentient Horror started out in 2014 under the name Sentience, before changing their name in 2016 to Sentient Horror. And they've been going strong ever since their debut, Ungodly Forms, in 2016. Then they had Morbid Realms in 2019. Neither of those albums I've checked out, but I probably will after listening to this new album with Rites of Gore. And, well, I've seen a lot of comparisons to primarily the Swedish death metal scene. Entombed, Dismember, Grave, even Edge of Sanity I'm seeing comparisons of, Bolt Thrower, Asphyx, Gorefest, bunch of like HM2 or like groovy death metal kind of mixed in together as far as like bands I see them get compared to on Metal Archives. So, that's all I know heading into this. But let's check out the album itself. So we kick things off with a Faceless Corpse, and right off the bat, that Boss HM2 tone just comes through the cut of the mix like butter. Starts off quite doomy and brooding, and then suddenly it just gets down and dirty with that thrashy energy and blast beats galore. And these riffs that I'm hearing on this track in particular are very different from most of this album. It kind of had a bit of a Morbid Angel vibe mixed with that Entombed spirit and a little bit of Bolt Thrower. So it was like a mashup of those three bands was what I was hearing in the riffs on this track. The bridge gets into this dark melodic guitar part and it's very atmospheric. And then the lead section here showcasing a combination of shred and intensity. Then it moves into Obliteration of Souls. The riff that starts this track off feels very Edge of Sanity, like early Edge of Sanity, like Unorthodox and Spectral Sorrows era Edge of Sanity, but because it has a little bit of intricate melody going on, but it remains heavy. The track itself is very thrashy and filthy with the riffs. The pre-bridge riff, in particular, reminded me of something from Dismember's Like an Ever-Flowing Stream with those tremolos. And as it goes into the actual bridge, it gets into that Bolt Thrower groove that a lot of this album has here and there of, as it leads into another tasty lead section, though this time it's shreddy, but there's some melody to it, which is a little bit different than the lead on the opening track. Then we get into Swamp Burial, an evil tremolo riff, almost a little black metal-ish, kind of starting this track off, as well as blast beats, and then it turns back to that groove going forward in the verses, and then back into that classic Swedish death metal spirit we go with D-beats, thrashiness, and the riffs feel very much like early Swedish death metal. Killer drum fill to lead into a brutal bridge section as things slow down a little bit in the bridge with the tempo, and then it heads into a wonderfully melodic lead section with some classic metal flair going on, which was really, really cool. The title track, Rites of Gore, sweet groove and melodic riffing to kickstart this track before it turns into more of that thrashiness leading into the verses, and the riff here feels very much like Entombed, like Left Hand Path era Entombed for sure. The pre-chorus gets really destructive with the riffs and the drum work that's going on. A chugging breakdown coming in on the bridge before the drums speed up a little bit, and it's like this back and forth where it was very chuggy, then it gets a little bit sped up. Kind of reminded me of Carcass around necroticism a little bit. And then the lead section here has some sweet taps going on and more vicious shred. Then we get into Splitting Skulls with this harmonized guitar line with the two guitarists. And I really, really like that because it brought in a little bit of classic metal once again. And then it gets into this Carcass-inspired riff, as well as the verses kind of carry that Carcass vibe. Really, this track felt more like a Carcass track than most of the others on this album. And then the chorus even has some tasty double bass work going on, as well as those guitar harmonies coming back. And then a great lead section that once again brings in that Carcass feel. Like, this lead feels like something straight out of Necroticism once again. So yeah, this track stands out among the others in terms of how different it is and how the inspiration for this seemed to be more akin to Carcass rather than most of the influences you're getting on this album. Descend to Chaos, some gross tremolo riffs and thrashy energy right off the bat. That thrashy brutality continues throughout much of this track, but it does transition as far as the riffs from tremolos to chugs, and the track gets into a groove after the first chorus before we get a riff that throws in another curveball. Kind of feels like early Necrophobic, like that middle ground between black metal and death metal, kind of with the riff that I hear on this part of the song. All leading to another wild lead section with some tapping before blast beats and thick riffs show up, and these thick riffs are thicker than my cock on a Saturday night. The Grave Is My Name, the next track that follows. Again, thick riff, double bass to start us off before it transitions back to that bolt thrower groove, but with a melodic riff on top. And then after that brief thick riff returns, back into some more entombed worship with the riffs as well as the D beats coming back. The lead section here brings back again more of that classic metal feel, as it almost feels like if Judas Priest had more tapping going on and a lot more of that thrash shred kind of mixed together. Like, this lead kind of brought in a little bit of that Judas Priest vibe. Afterwards, the groove returns as the riffs in the groove are just disgusting to close this song out. Then we get the track Till Death Do Us Rot, which is a pretty fucking cool title. Sweet build-up leading into more thrash energy showing up with a riff that brings back that early Edge of Sanity feel. Blast beats going along with the riff to make it more intense. The little hints of melody that pop up in these riffs definitely help bring new life to these riffs. Once again, another cool lead section before things turn a little bit punky with the beats, but the tremolos return to close this track out. Then we get to the final original track of the album, The Eyes of Dread, which was the longest song of the album at a little over 6 minutes. Like, most of the songs kind of clock in at about 4 to 5 minutes, like that in between that spot. But The Eyes of Dread, over 6 minutes. Starting off with an awesome tapping guitar line that kind of reminded me a little bit of the song Symphony of Pain from Accept off of their album last year, Too Mean to Die, which I thought was really, really cool. Also, a little bit of an Iron Maiden vibe as well with the melodies going on at the beginning before it leads into probably the best groove of the album, and also some killer riffs that feel like a mix of Bolt Thrower and even Asphyx kind of popping up here. Little tremolos can be heard on some of these riffs. Towards the middle, the tempo does get a little bit faster and a little bit punky as it leads into a cool, tasty lead section once again. Then we get a sweet tremolo riff, and that thrash energy comes back to bring back those Entomb, Dismember, Edge of Sanity vibes. And then we close the song out with a big scream coming through, leading into a tapping second lead section as it fades to a close. And then the final track of the album is their cover of Entombed's Supposed to Rot, and they do that song justice. Fair amount of justice. I thought it was a pretty damn good cover to close this album out. And I forgot to mention, too, that this album, in terms of production, it was mastered by my fucking idol, Mr. Dan Swano. So that's why I kind of get a little bit of that Edge of Sanity vibe here and there with some of the guitar parts. Because, after all, you got Dan the Man Swano doing mastering as far as the production goes. But overall, I can't find anything to really complain about this album. Perhaps some people out there will say maybe it's derivative of what came before it as far as the Swedish death metal influence, or even that bolt thrower influence coming in, but who cares? I love all that shit, and if I hear a band doing all that and doing it very well, but making it sound like they did it themselves and make it sound fresh, I'm all on board for it. So, another fucking brilliant album. Man, what is it so far this year? We've just had some amazing music. This is another 10 out of 10 for me. Like I said, I think I can't find anything really to complain about this album. Like, every riff is memorable. Everything has a purpose to it. That energy of the thrashiness, the punk energy with the D beats, the grooves are infectious. Some of the intricate guitar parts were well executed. And the lead work, kind of bringing in a little classic metal flair here and there on some of the lead work on this album. And, of course, I am, just like any other death metal fan, a big slut for Boss HM2 sounds. That buzzsaw tone I absolutely love, and these guys do it, and do it very, very well. This is definitely going to be an album I'm going to pick up at some point here in the near future, because holy fucking shit! This is one of the best death metal albums I have heard all year. This is some brilliant stuff. But of course, that's just my opinion. Not everybody's going to agree. But what did you guys think of Rites of Gore by Sentient Horror? Let me know in the comments section below. And until next time, horns high, and I will see you next time. Wake up.
This is interesting.
And wow. I can go ahead and confirm.
I was the revealer. I was flip Levi's card. There's my revealer card.
I was hoping this would happen. Okay.
The heck happened?
Alright.
What in the
Oh
world?
god.
I misappropriated.
Okay, I was the robber and I took Seth's revealer.
What the heck?
So Seth and I are safe. Bad news for everyone else.
And I'm a prince again,
I literally was squinting because I'm like, that looks like a revealer card, but wait, I'm the revealer.